Welcome, parents. We'll get started in just a moment. The Zoom is filling up with people. We want to be conscious of your time. So we will get started and try to stick to our 30-minute commitment here. Welcome. We're glad you're here. We are as interested in your students having a great experience this summer as we are in them having a great experience through the year. So we're going to talk about that. We'll please ask questions. We'll have a Q&A session at the end. You can submit them as you go along. And we have an able facilitator, Heather Garcia, who's going to walk us through those at the end of the webinar or near the end. So my name is Cherrie Wilkerson. I'm the Assistant Dean for Young Professional Programs over at the Owen Graduate School of Management. That means that I work very closely with the Masters of Finance, Masters of Marketing, Masters of Accounting, and my baby, as the Dean says, Accelerator. I lead Accelerator and really enjoy that program. You'll hear a bit more about that in a moment. And with me today is Gary Kimball.
Thanks, Cherrie, and welcome everyone. I direct the Undergraduate Business Minor program, and I teach in the College of Arts and Science. I specifically teach corporate valuation and financial management. And I've been at Vanderbilt 14 years after a career in logistics and finance. So Cherrie, I thought I would, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, we have, here's what I'm guessing is on your mind. Here's what we're thinking is on your mind. How should students even think about spring break? That's why you're here. That's the purpose of the webinar. So it really kind of depends on where they are in school. If you're a freshman or a junior, there's a big difference there. There's more expectations for the junior summer than there are for the freshman summer. But we're going to argue tonight that all of those summers are very important and have to tell a long-term story. Your student has worked really hard to develop a set of skills to get into Vanderbilt, to get some experience, etc., in clubs and other places, leadership experience. So a nice assessment, an honest assessment of what skills, experiences are lacking or do you need more of is a good way to guide summer choices for your student. And then what are they really passionate about? What do they love doing? You all know in working in your careers and that you've got to be, with all the ups and downs and things, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. It's the passionate people who bring the insight and creativity to the work and make a real difference. And understanding, you know your kid in some ways better than they do. My father and mother always did. You know what kind of things are going to rejuvenate them and get them ready for the next step. So what we're going to talk about tonight is kind of 4 categories: to explore, your student to explore their options, gain experience in some field, reconnect with you all and their friends and other family members, and rejuvenate themselves and get ready to get back in the game in the fall.
Yeah, so Cherrie, thinking about the explore concept, college should in large part be about a student exploring lots of different things about themselves, about the community, about careers, about friendships, et cetera. Lots of tools available for them in terms of the career path. When I talk to students, one of the first things I suggest to them is use VU Connect. It's the alumni network portal. It's an easy way for current Vanderbilt students to engage alums, both young and old. You can engage them in the industries in which you're interested. The nice thing about alums is they love to help and they love to talk about themselves. If you'll approach them, with a curiosity and interest in what they do, they will embrace you, and they'll embrace you passionately. Another thing that I encourage students to do is engage faculty in the business minor. Sometimes the younger students are a bit hesitant to engage the business faculty, but it's a wonderful opportunity given we have a really unique business minor program with a lot of different experiences that are brought to bear in the classes that we teach. And we have a core group of faculty that are former business executives and owners that have lots of experiences, lots of contacts, and perspectives that they're more than happy to share. And then, of course, you have the Career Center that has a lot of tools available to students that students can use to think about where their passions may lie, what's really involved in working in certain industries, et cetera. And you're using all this exploration really to find where your passions are. Cherrie mentioned passion. I'm going to mention it a couple of times tonight. It's the differentiator for students when they're pursuing a job. Lots of candidates are going to be really well qualified for positions. And the differentiating factor is if you can demonstrate a commitment to what you're exploring or pursuing. And that starts with exploring. I'm going to pass it back to Cherrie now for just a second to talk about master's degrees, which is part of the exploration process.
It is. Your student may find they get to junior year or even senior year and decide, I really want to go into finance, but I've missed the window for the whole investment banking thing, or I just feel like I'm behind. I feel like I need an additional skill set to really hit the job market strong. Or the same maybe set of marketing, where you took a set of marketing courses with the business minor, but you feel like you need more to be competitive in the job market. So we have 3 10-month programs that have a wonderful record of getting students educated, dive deep into that particular function, and helping them get jobs. Our employment rate is astronomical. 100% is pretty good. So just fairly quickly after graduation. So it's a good investment for the right student. If your student knows exactly what they want and they have a set of internships that lead toward that, you won't need a specialized master's degree. But for a certain set of students, it's a lifesaver. It's career coaching. It's getting them on the right track to get to that ultimate job that they would like to have. This is a disheartening statistic, but I'm going to throw it at you anyway. The job that students take after college, studies show it has lasting impact up to 10 years after they've left college. So the ladder you get on tends to be the ladder you stay on. That wasn't true for a lot of us when we came out of our undergraduate programs, but it is true now. So getting on that right ladder is essential.
So, after doing some exploring, of course, one of the results we want is to gain experience. And for better or for worse, the need for internships is real. Companies, in many cases, have moved to using internships as the gateway to a full-time position. Companies expect you to have had an internship after your junior year, and it's a plus if you've had one after your sophomore year. That said, your main focus, if you're a student, should be on improving yourself and pursuing that passion in some form. For instance, let's say you don't secure the internship that you were really hoping to get, either in the desired field or with the desired company. There are options. Perhaps you can focus on self-improvement by taking some skills courses. I teach finance. Maybe the students want to do a summer self-study on how to build financial models. There are lots of opportunities to fill in the gap, and you're filling in the gap to show that you're developing relevant experience in the industry that you're hoping to pursue. You can explore the graduate programs at Owen, right? Demonstrating, right, a commitment to learning more about the options that you have in that field. The key thing is to be able to show that you are being productive with some connection to your stated goals. If you say that you want to work in consulting, right, what are you doing? You know, if it's not an internship, what are you doing to prepare yourself better to enter that field? And, you know, there's lots of coaching available, both through the Career Center, through the business minor faculty, where students, if they hit a wall, right, we're here available to help them get over the wall, pivot if they need to, or to connect them with others that may be able to open a door for them that they haven't found yet.
There's also summer immersion programs that are helpful for students. I happen to be really familiar with one that I'm very fond of, the Accelerator, 3 weeks at Owen, June 5th through the 25th. I was in a classroom today talking about Accelerator to a group of undergraduates. And the question was, why should I do Accelerator versus an internship? I said, well, it depends on the type of internship you're doing. If it's one that is robust and you're gaining skills and it fits with your passion and it helps your resume read like a story from beginning to end, take that by all means. But if it's not quite that robust, think about Accelerator. We have essentially 3 internships in 3 weeks. We have 3 clients. One of them is Nissan. We're doing a very exciting cutting edge project for them, where teams of students will come up with solutions to the client's problem. And the client will come back at the end of the week and decide which team did the best, give them feedback. This worked. You got this right. This thing seems a little off. And clients tend to be amazed at what our students come up with as they go through the process, and guided by faculty, guided by MBA coaches, to come up with some really good solutions. And those things are talking points for every single interview. Tell me about a time you solved a problem in a time crunch. Well, I have an Accelerator story. Tell me about a time you had conflict in a group setting. Well, plenty of Accelerator stories for that. It's high pressure. Tell me about a time where you worked all night. Probably Accelerator. So there's lots of stories there. It can fill a gap for students. We spend a lot of time on career preparation as well. As Gary was saying, having students have a direction. They may change it. They may change it 10 times, but you got to be moving in some direction. And our career coaches from Owen can help them think through, well, what are you passionate about? What is that? What were you doing when you had the best day at work of your life, or your best experience at school? Let's do more of that. Here's some careers you might want to think about. Here's some people you can talk to. So that constant career preparation, hands-on, working with them solid for 6 days a week is a really good way to get them ready to move on. It can be, for the right student, really transformative. So in these last 2 years, by golly, students did not have the college experience you had. COVID, they're resilient. They took it in stride, et cetera. But it's time to really reconnect with family, with you all. Be conscious about that. How can we help our student reconnect and get that personal one-on-one attention, where they're staring at someone's real face and reading all the verbal cues, nonverbal cues, and communicating. They need to be just immersed in that in the summertime. So think how you can help them reconnect with their friends, give them that family time they need, go back to some of those favorite places before they went off to college. An important time to affirm them and help build them up before they head back to work.
Yeah, we would be, with everything we've presented tonight, we'd be remiss if we didn't emphasize the need for each student to use every break, summer or otherwise, as a time to recharge, rejuvenate, refocus. Most important thing for students is their mental, their emotional, and their physical health. We ask a lot of these students. They are challenged in the classroom. They're challenged with co-curricular activities. They're challenged in trying to contemplate what career path they should follow. And that takes a lot from them. They've got to also focus on taking care of themselves. I have lots of conversations with students talking about it being okay to take a break. And one of the exercises we go through is we talk about how do we prioritize the time to pursue our passions, to make sure that we have quality time with friends and family, and to have the requisite amount of focus on our health. If the students aren't taking care of those things, my guess is the odds are pretty high that they're going to suboptimize the career pursuit that they're under, because it takes them being at their best to really optimize the outcome in terms of internships and full-time jobs. I think the focus on rejuvenation is complementary to the pursuit of getting that experience, the exploration, and an outcome that they can be really pleased. One of the questions that I pose to students, Cherrie mentioned it earlier, but you'll hear it thematically from us. For a student, what constitutes fun and what are their passions? A lot of times the answers will overlap with their career interest. And if they can synthesize, their efforts to pursue those passions, both personal and professional, to me that's one where we get 1 + 1 = 3. And the students tend to be really, really successful once they can step back and take the time to focus on what's most important to them.
We have left time for you for questions, and Heather's going to feed us some questions. We'll also be available for questions later. There's our information. We'll quickly get those questions to us. So if you have, after we end and you have a thought, please feel free to contact us. We'd love to talk to you. We're passionate about your students. That's why we're in these positions. I want to thank you for participating in this. So Heather, over to you.
Thank you so much, Cherrie. Thanks again for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your time, and we've had some great questions come in, and we are recording the session. So if you came in a little bit late or you want to go back and rewatch some of the great content, you'll be able to do so, because we'll be following up and sending you an email with the link. But if you do have any questions, I really encourage you to click on the Q&A button down at the bottom of the screen. And if we don't get to your question, we're going to be sure to follow up with you. So please send us your questions. I think the first question, Cherrie, is for you, and it's about Accelerator. And when is the best time for a student to apply? Should they apply now? And then, is it more appropriate for a sophomore to apply or a senior? Tell us a little bit more about the types of students you see in the program and when they should apply.
I've been working with Accelerator for about 10 years, and my thinking has evolved on that. Actually, we're accepting applications now. I met with the students who've already been admitted and accepted to the program today to start to build some camaraderie before they show up in June. So we've got some student ambassadors, and they're going to be connecting with each other and doing some interesting things even prior to Accelerator. So that's a fun improvement this year. If it's my child did go to Accelerator. If they are just kind of unclear on what they want to do, or even what their major might be, send them freshman year, right after freshman year. The benefit of that is that gives them some focus so they can think about what their major should be, what courses they need to take, how they can structure their internships, which, as Gary said, get more and more important for maximum advantage. So, and then we have some students who come after they graduate. And those are students who just had a late idea on what they wanted to do, or just really not sure because they're interested in various things, or don't have any context for thinking about the job world. perhaps parents were in medicine and they have no interest in medicine. So now what do I do? It's been really good for them to think through what they want to do. We help them get their resume, connect them with potential alumni, and let them network to get jobs. So there's benefits to doing it after every year, but the ante goes up for sophomore internship, junior internships in particular are really important. If your child is interested in investment banking, they need to get an investment banking internship that junior year, because that is how you get an investment banking job out of school. If they don't get one, then there's alternatives like the Masters of Finance, and you get a second bite at the apple. But it depends on the career. It depends on your particular student. But there's not a, this sounds very biased, and it is, but there's really not a bad time to go to Accelerator. Would you agree with that, Gary?
I do agree with that. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And our next deadline for parents who are wondering, so we did have a question about the next Accelerator deadline. It is March 6th. So we are accepting applications all the time, but we do have specific deadlines. So mark your calendar for March 6th and remind your student to be sure to apply for Accelerator. Gary, I have a question for you. And a parent was wondering if a Blair student can do an immersion project in business or finance.
Absolutely. There's no limitation on, having to have a certain major to do a certain immersion project. If you were to go to the immersion portal as a student, you'll see a number of business related immersion plans that have already been pre-approved by the faculty. The student can also design one themselves if they have a particular connection between Blair/music and business that they can work with a business faculty member on. So it's really up to the student to make the connection between business and Blair, but there's no real impediments that I know of that would prevent that from happening.
Just a comment, one of Gary's pre-approved protocols for immersion includes Accelerator is the experience component of immersion. So you get that done and then add the other 3 boxes of that in conjunction, and it's spelled out in the immersion portal.
Great, thank you. We do have a couple of questions about internships and where a student could go look and find internships. And also a parent is wondering, which it ties into internships, but if they're less interested in consulting and finance, what are some other entrepreneurial areas they can get into? So any kind of helpful feedback for the parents on internships and other experience would be great.
Heather, one of the most dynamic areas for that is in the student organizations. For instance, if a student is looking for an internship with a small company or a startup or in a particular area, I know several students who've had great success in joining the Vanderbilt Entrepreneurship Club. It's called Vines. They have direct connections to the Entrepreneur Center and lots of executives here in town. And I think it's really helpful for students to engage the students who are ahead of them at Vanderbilt, who have already gone through the process. And a lot of times the student org serves as that glue to bring students together so that they can talk about those experiences and how best to navigate that. They're certainly welcome to engage faculty too, if they've got a particular area they're interested in. If they want a marketing internship, I'm going to direct them to Patrick Ledden, who teaches our marketing courses, and he's going to help them navigate, some path there to find that. The reality is, in terms of employment, when it comes to a number of different industries, the hiring numbers are relatively small on campus for full-time jobs, and there's some effort needed from the students to identify those and to pursue those in conjunction with the Career Center or in conjunction with faculty or the clubs. But it's absolutely doable, but it takes some proactive energy on the part of the student and engaging with the different resources around campus. The first place I would go, I would think about my interest, and I would turn to a couple of student orgs that share that interest, and query the older students in the club as to how they pursued that.
The consulting companies and the investment banks are really good at just laying a clear path for students. They market, the salaries are great, and it's very seductive, but it's a very narrow path. Mm-hmm. And few can get through that, and you have to have an amazing passion for it, and have incredible GPA and leadership and all this stuff. But there's so many more things out there. I doubt we have 37 consultants and investment bankers on the call. You all have very different careers, and they're wonderful and great. So they need to really, instead of just following blindly down that path, they really need to think, what do I want to do, and what have other people done? There's so many different options.
Thank you. We have another really good question about immersion projects, and what are they exactly?
Yeah, so immersion is a relatively recent requirement that's been added to graduate from Vanderbilt. So if you think about the 120 hours that you need to earn, and picking a major and fulfilling Axel, all those things are still there. And in addition to that, laying over the top of that is an immersion project that a student can help design, where it involves being immersed, for lack of a better term, in some experience that can be synthesized with their academic experience. It's meant to be approximately the equivalent of 9 semester hours of work, but you can leverage different areas of your college experience. For instance, study abroad, right? Or if you're in engineering, your senior project can be a core of your immersion project. So there's lots of different opportunities to leverage things that you're already doing in school. But the best thing for a student to do, you have to declare it by the end of your sophomore year. As you're starting to think about your major and your plans over your sophomore, junior years, engage the immersion office. They have a separate dedicated staff. Talk about that, and then identify a faculty member that you think would be supportive of whatever it is you're wanting to pursue. Do that to give yourself time to let the plan evolve and get approved before you finish up your sophomore year.
Thank you very much. And Gary, this question is probably for you,
Okay.
And it's about the business minor. So we're keeping you busy here. I appreciate all the questions, everyone. So keep those coming, and feel free to tap the Q&A button. But Gary, someone had a question about the business minor, and a lot of the courses are super popular, and so it's a bit of a challenge to get into those courses. Are there going to be any changes happening coming down the pipeline that you're aware of to help students get into those courses?
No, I don't know of any material changes, Heather. Generally speaking, we offer 32 sections per year of the 5 required mods. If you look at the enrollment data, about 70% of the students in those courses are sophomores and juniors. The first year students can typically take the org behavior mod. It doesn't have any prerequisites. And then it's loaded with juniors and seniors typically in the operations mod, because it's got the most prerequisites to it. But the vast majority of students who are taking the mods are sophomores and juniors. That said, students do not have to complete the 5 required mods before they start on their electives. So you can take an elective as long as you've met the prereq for that. For instance, you can take business of music before you finish the five mods, if that's one of the courses that you want to count. We have a negotiation class that Cherrie visited today that is incredibly popular. We offer 5 sections over the semester. Doesn't have a prereq, right? There's 3 hours towards the 16 and a half that you can complete before finishing the mods. One of the things I encourage students, we generally will present to the first year students over on Commons about the business minor, is it takes some planning to get it done. And depending on what your major course of study is, it helps to engage one of the business minor faculty to plot out a strategy to finish it. It can be tight, but I'm confident, having been here since the start of it and looking at all the data, that if the student will engage their business minor advisor early, the path is very achievable. And if we have a parent of a student who's expressed that concern, I'd be more than happy to engage on that for a specific student.
Thank you so much. Cherrie, I have one last question. I think it's really important to cover. Someone's kid is trying to evaluate an internship or participate in an accelerator. And I know you hit on some good points earlier. So if you could just reiterate some of those points and the value of accelerator and internships. I mean, they're both very valuable opportunities.
With the internship, just make sure it's rich, that they have some real experience that they have some results that they can put on their resume, as opposed to attended a meeting, edited a PowerPoint. Those kind of things don't really sing to an employer or a graduate school. So it has to have some significant responsibility. And the good news is, if you have 2 months or 3 months, you can do that, but you have to start off in the right spot. If your student has other plans for the summer and wants really deep down, dig in for 3 weeks and get 3 really robust experiences, Accelerator is a great move. We start at 9 o'clock in the morning and end at the earliest, probably 9 p.m. every night. So it's 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. It's a lot of work. You can squeeze a lot of good experience into that 3 weeks. And we structure it so that they do get that experience. So it depends on the internship. I know what Accelerator is. I don't know what internship your student's thinking about. So, and there's a lot of great ones out there. Accelerator is not always the answer.
Thank you for that feedback. Greatly appreciated. I think that wraps up our Q&A, and we want to thank you again for joining us. It has been recorded, so you will receive an email with a link to the recording here real soon. But we hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Please be safe out there.
Yes, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.